Another Impact Wrestling pay-per-view in the books, Bound for Glory 2017. And we know we can call it Impact Wrestling now. We lost the Global Force title, and we hadn't had a pay-per-view since Victory Road in September, and then we also had Slammiversary this summer, and the last two Impact pay-per-views have been very good, so I was hoping this one would keep the momentum going, and it had a lot of good, some bad. We'll go through it, let us know your thoughts, and yeah, I mean, you guys seem to like these reviews. We try to review every Impact pay-per-view, as well as do some more Impact talking too, so yeah, leave your comments below. I'll ask a couple questions throughout the things, and definitely leave your comments on those things before too. So we start off with the X Division match. I was actually kind of hoping this would be like the Ultimate X match. I do think that's one thing that Impact Wrestling does well, and kind of has, it's a very unique thing, and the matches are usually good. I mean, I can remember people like Chris Sabin, Alex Shelley, Christopher Daniels, Kazarian, those types of people. I mean, it's like old school TNA, which good to see that Impact TNA has been around now. Well, they even mentioned a few times for 15 years, over 15 years, because it was early 2002, so glad to see that happening. But instead we just get a regular X Division match. Don't even know if I can tell you all the names that are in it. I know there's Trevor Lee, who was coming in as the champion, Matt Sydal, known as Evan Bourne in my world still, Garza Jr., Petey Williams, Sanjay Dutt, and Desmond Xavier. Okay, I guess I can remember all the names offhand. And yeah, it's your typical X Division match. You had your spots in different those places, the high spots, and just, yeah, the crowd. Good way to get them into it with a fast-paced match like that. So out of the 6, I mean, you kind of had, I actually was kind of maybe thinking Matt Sydal might win or Garza Jr. might win coming in. I did not actually think Trevor Lee was going to hold, but I guess he hasn't been the champion for that long and hasn't really been in that many feuds since he's been the champion. Petey Williams kind of had the home field advantage being in Canada, and he definitely had the crowd behind him the most, I would say, and he also hit a couple great spots, which was really exciting. Sanjay Dutt hasn't really seemed relevant since just that little India phase where they had him. And Desmond Xavier seems kind of like a future of the X Division, and I didn't know if this would be his time yet or not, but it kind of happened. So yeah, it was just going back and forth. It ended by Petey Williams, that pile driver, that spinning pile driver. I know there's probably a name for it, but it's been too long and I'm not going to come up with it. But it's one of the coolest moves too. I mean, that is an amazing feat. And we saw Petey Williams at Slammiversary when he was, we thought he was going to climb the ladder for the X Division, and he didn't. But Trevor Lee pulls him off to pin Xavier after the Petey Williams pile driver, and so Trevor Lee kind of wins it cheap. Perfect Trevor Lee style. Trevor Lee's kind of growing on me. I mean, I remember his first he actually stole the belt from Sanjay Dutt, and he plays his role well. I mean, he has a unique character. He's different than anybody else, and that's what you have to be these days. He's enjoyable. He's entertaining. He seems to be able to wrestle well, so I have no problems with Trevor Lee hanging on to it. Desmond Xavier, meanwhile, he missed. Did you see right before the finish? He missed Evan Bourne with the Paley kick, and Bourne had to move into it. I saw a few of these missed spots tonight, and it was bothersome. They usually covered it, but it just looked fake a few times, and it kind of bothered me. And it's like we're supposed to be lost in this, and so maybe maybe it's not Desmond Xavier's time yet. Maybe he still has a little bit of polishing to do. Overall, it was about what I expected for an X Division match. Nothing more, nothing less. Like I said, Trevor Lee, good champion. Hopefully he gets into a feud. I think we need a feud now, and not with Sanjay Dutt. Maybe he can get into a feud with Petey Williams. Kind of an old school feud. I think Lee could hold on to the belt for a while, or we could be seeing Petey Williams come back if they feel like they need the crowd seems to really be behind Petey Williams. So you also have Matt Sydal. It's like, I think I just called him Evan Bourne a few seconds ago because, yeah, to me, he'll always be Evan Bourne. And he's kind of one of those tweeners, and I mean tweener in a way between, do you want him as your X Division champion, or do you want him, he's a big enough name, he could be fighting for a higher champion, global championship, or even the heavyweight championship. I mean, I could see Evan Bourne and Eli Drake putting on some good matches. So if I could, you got to give him something. I mean, I think right now he hasn't been shown enough. He hasn't been displayed enough on the showcase. That's the word I was looking for. Showcased enough on the shows in overall. So I would like to see Matt Sydal get a little more attention from everybody, but we'll have to see. Okay, so it started off good. I'm into the pay-per-view. I hope by this time you guys were too. Then we get something that I'm guessing made up for the missing, the person was missing Rosemary, and because Tyra Valkyrie was not able to come, and I guess we even found out on the show, well, she's live, so everything seems fine because she's live tweeting during the show, they said later on, so she's still part of the company, everything seems to be in good standing at least, so we don't know, I'm sure you can read the rumor boards. I didn't actually look at why she didn't make the show, but good to know that because I think her character's been going good. So, but we had to get a match in between, and so we got Tyler Dux versus Taiji Ishii, I think is how you pronounced it. We got to see a Laura Van Ness cameo in the crowd. Ishii Mori wins a 450 splash off the top rope. I guess he's from Pro Wrestling Noah. I think, like I said, just a filler match. Crowd wasn't really into it. I wasn't really into it because it's like I don't even know who these people were, and I watch Impact. I mean, I watch a lot of wrestling, and I don't read everything online. So, and I know enough about Pro Wrestling Noah, but I don't really follow it. So, yeah, I think it was just a filler match. It was fine. Laura Van Ness in the crowd. The crowd actually even seemed more into her being in the crowd than they did about the match. So that thing. Then Alberto El Patron comes in, does a long promo in the ring. And I kind of noticed during that time he's pretty good at promos. I mean, I have to give it to him. He kept us going. I think towards the end the crowd was even getting a little restless. But then he goes up, he threatens JB, wonders why JB doesn't text him or call him because it wasn't his. I kind of thought it was funny because it's like the whole time it was like it wasn't his fault. So, and it is almost kind of a little bit of truth to that because from the reports that came out is like he was the one that was on the receiving end from Paige, so why did he get suspended? I mean, you go back to the Bruce Pritchard, who's long gone, giving him the future endeavors, so I wasn't even sure we'd ever see him back, but then they were advertising him for a while. He comes out, but he ends up leaving JB alone, and just kind of it's like, but he's going to cause trouble, he's back, and he's mad, so yeah, it gives us a little taste of something that you know is going to happen later tonight, and that's fine. Then you got Grotto versus Abyss in the Monsters Ball match, and Grotto comes out and he's got the Mick Foley flannel, the red flannel with the black on, and they even mentioned that Mick Foley gave it to him and stuff like that. And then I thought, classic, he's wearing a fanny pack, and Abyss even makes fun of that, and classic Mick Foley there. If you get a chance, watch on WWE Network. You can watch some classic. The table for three with Edge, Christian, and Foley is just awesome, or as they would say, it reeks of awesomeness. And so, yeah, those are my favorite Foley. Out of everything Foley ever did, it was with him, Edge, and Christian. He was the commissioner. He had this little mallet. He's always hitting things with it, man. So now we're talking WWE now, but yeah, it's Foley. He's awesome. And so we get going in the match. Grotto's interesting because it's like he was definitely the underdog according to everybody. And so Laurel Van Ness comes in and interferes, and so that's kind of where you saw that going. And she's mad at Grotto for leaving her at the altar. So then Rosemary comes in and blinds Laurel Van Ness. But then at least Rosemary and Abyss in the ring, and they were members of the Decay together. So she cuddles up to him, and then they're going to blind Grotto. But then Grotto ducks, and Rosemary ends up misting Abyss. And yet at the same time, the roll-up comes from Grotto, and you think, okay, this is it. He just got the mist in the eyes. 1, 2, 3, the bell rings. Makes sense how it would end. But then for some reason they throw out that ending. And I guess it was a 2 count. And the one announcer, it must have been... I think it was JB. It might have both commented on it, but they kind of knew it wasn't supposed to happen that way. But all the crowd thought it happened that way, and I don't see why. But so instead, Abyss hits the black hole slam on the barbed wire board, and that was pretty cool. So, and something not to, Abyss ends up, while he was blinded, ends up giving kind of a side slam to Rosemary on the tacks. So Rosemary took one of the best bumps of the night there, and kudos to her because that did not look fun, and Rosemary still did it. So actually the biggest things that have happened from this match is the future. What is going to happen between these people? It's like, is Rosemary now back with Abyss, or is Rosemary going to feud with Abyss? Is Rosemary going to go back with Laurel Van Ness again and feud with her? Are we going to see DK again? There's been rumors that Crazy Steve could be around at some point again. And so who knows on that? And it's just so many questions about what's Grotto. Grotto supposedly he's not here anymore. Is he out of Impact now? I mean, was this really just a way to write him off of television? I like her. If you've ever seen Grotto's entrance where he does the Like a Virgin from Madonna, pretty cool. He did a little of the dancing there. He didn't do it with the music. I don't know. It might have been a licensing thing. He might not have had rights to the music at this point. So yeah, Monsters Ball match, about what you expected. It wasn't going to be a technical match. They did a good job of using the weapons and stuff. I mean, it wasn't your biggest Monsters Ball match ever or your most dangerous, but it got the job done, and it was entertaining. And like I said, lots of questions with Rosemary, with Laurel Van Ness, DK, everything else. So from there you go into a more traditional match where you know you're going to see some good wrestling. Team Impact versus Team AAA. So much from here. You had EC3 kind of moping for most of the time, and if you saw it right in the middle, Storm gave EC3 the DX chop, and kind of like the old DX suck it chop, and it's like, wow, it's like, I just got a kick out of that. I actually just watched the DX One Last Stand video, one of the best DVDs there is out there, I think, right now, because they were just, when Hornswoggle joins DX, yeah, so speaking of Swoggle, we didn't get to see him this pay-per-view, which was disappointing. I hope we get to see Swoggle back soon. I haven't heard that he's been released yet, and so someone can tell me if he has, but I have not heard that, actually. So this match was pretty much, besides, there were a couple, the one AAA guy, it wasn't Fantasio, so I'm not sure which one it was. I could probably figure it out if I look at the list here quickly. I would say it was... how about... Actually, I couldn't tell. It wasn't Phantasma or whatever his name is. I know which one that was. So, he had to get set up for, I believe it was the James Storm elbow, and he got suplexed from the top rope, and he was going to get elbowed right away from James Storm. And once again, he wasn't in the right position after the suplex, so he kind of like moved. It was just way too obvious. I mean, I expect this from maybe like the lowest independent wrestling, but even the good independent wrestling, they don't even have this many mistakes with stuff like that. I would have just left. Just stay there. Don't make it look like you're setting yourself up for an elbow that just takes away all of our imagination. Like hey, this is supposed to, we're getting lost in this, and this is supposed to be real. And and you're moving so that you can get an elbow. Yeah, I didn't like that. I did like the EC3 or Storm giving EC3 the DX chop. So I'm gonna go back to that because still one of my favorite things of the night. EC3 then comes in, does his thing, gives the double low blows to get the advantage, but then he tags James Storm like a team player and says, I think we're kind of supposed to read into it that EC3 could finish it himself, but wanted to be the team player, wanted to give the respect to James Storm, the long time Impact guy. The guy's been there since day one. They mentioned that a few times, but the announcers didn't do a good job of this part and didn't really acknowledge that EC3 was doing it that much. But then it did work out because then they shared the beers in the ring, a la Stone Cold Steve Austin. Even though it's like they were doing bottles, which I know is like James Storm things, but it's like Austin, you can have the cans, you can be throwing them, you can throw them, you can catch them. It's like all sort of things. When you have the bottles, you have to go get them from the person who's holding them, take them out of the cooler, be careful, you got glass. And yeah, I know they've used the glass before, so that's probably why you need the bottles. But really, sharing a cold one in the center of the ring, and about what you would expect. I mean, you expected Team Impact to beat Team AA on their pay-per-view. So someone is down in the back, and he gives the thumbs down, and they kind of say, was it homicide? It's like, hey, we've seen that thumb before. And so it was the tag team title match next, Ohio versus Everything, which actually the name is starting to wear on me a little bit. The first, and I don't read that much online, but I actually read people online complaining about the name, and now it's like I can handle them. I'm kind of getting used to it. It's like it's different. I mean, they need a name. That's who they are. They're from Ohio. They're doing it, and they were part of a faction before they came to TNA. I want to say it was like the Irish something. Let's see if I can. I bet I can find it while we're talking here. And yeah, they actually seem to be doing a decent match. And you have LAX, but you have no Homicide, which seemed to be the big deal because family was supposed to come. And then so match back and forth. But we've seen this a lot now in the last few pay-per-views or just Impact Wrestlings. And then all of a sudden it's Sami Callihan coming down to the ring. One of the best free agents out there right now, probably Sami Callihan. I mean, he's been ranked at least in the top 20 in the PWI 500. I know he does stuff. He's CZW wrestling, I think, and a lot of different. I saw him in a match against somebody. I almost want to say it was Ricochet. I don't remember if that was 100% true or not. But he always seems to be in a match of some kind, and it's always usually pretty good. And so coming out, but yeah, he's got the Ohio connection, and he was in a group. Let's see if I can find the group real quickly. And of course, I won't be able to. Yes, I will. How about something Irish? And I don't have it. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I know he was in a group with the Ohio versus Everything, and so that's kind of Sami Callihan. Not a big surprise that we would see him then, and comes in, helps Ohio versus Everything take it. I actually didn't mind this because I think we can see Ohio versus Everything now. They get a new thing, and LAX can hold their own. LAX is one of the few teams in Impact that they don't need the titles to be relevant. They'll go out and do their own thing. And Ohio versus Everything, I mean, we could still see one more rematch because they don't have a lot of tag teams either way. But I think we're going to see Ohio versus Everything move on. And then LAX can go on to their next thing that they want to do. And we got it. So it's just great. I hope Sami Callihan's here to stay. He would add another great name to the Impact roster. Then we have the Triple Threat Knockouts. This one was very predictable. This was one of those that usually I don't like the predictable ones, but at the same time I like it when we can have a tribute to someone like Gail Kim, because I mean if someone deserves a tribute, it's Gail Kim. And here we're gonna get a tribute to Gail Kim. You almost definitely expected Gail Kim to win. A good match overall. Allie's interesting. I like Allie, but they almost play on her naivety a little bit too much. Like, you have to keep her credible too. I think someday she will win. I liked her little thing with lack of wedding and then wedding, but then Maria and Mike Bennett left, and so you lost some of the villains of that one. And then Braxton Sutter, haven't seen him either, so I don't know what's going on there. Yeah, that's the problem with Impact, is they go for a while and they lose. I mean, think about some of the other people they've lost. Well, at least, like I said, we know Tyra Vulcan is back, but they lost Taryn Terrell, was supposed to be in this pay-per-view, and they lost her now because she decided to leave. Low-key gone from the last pay. I mean, he's been there, and now he's not anymore, and that's the thing. I mean, it's not like, to be credible, you have to keep your big stars for a while so you can build stories around them and do that. So, getting back to the Knockouts Triple Threat, we saw Gail Kim win. Great match. I mean, Sienna wrestles well. Allie did her part. Gail Kim does great too. And actually, she got the pin over Sienna, which was kind of cool. Allie got knocked, completely like thrown out of the ring too, took a big bump, and so perfect way to end it. Gail Kim is going to come Thursday on Impact. She's going to come and address it. I think something's going to happen where probably she has to defend it at least one more time or something. I don't think it was the last time we saw her, because I don't think she's quite ready to retire. I think she's going to do one more thing with the championship before we see her. So I'd like to see, but we know we're winding down the career of her, and what a career it was, but fortunately could never get, especially her second stint in the WWE, could never really get momentum going, even though she deserved it, but always did great in Impact and TNA, so we did that. Then Jimmy Jacobs comes out, and they see him like standing in the darkness, and who's that? And then he comes over to the announce table, and Chip Borash actually did a good job in this one. And this is probably where I probably should have mentioned this at the beginning, but I mean, I know JB's been with the company since the beginning, and I know he's probably well respected, probably sits in on the top meetings and stuff like that, but him and Josh Matthews just can't get it. Remember Slammiversary when you had Don West and some guy from, I almost want to say like from a hockey channel or something. I'd have to go back and look it up, but it was because Matthews and Borash were wrestling with the Steiners or with Scott Steiner and Joseph Park. So they were gone the whole matches. You got Don West and that, I'll just call him that other guy for now. You can look him up. Bet I could probably figure it out while we're talking here, but I don't want to completely lose focus on what I'm trying to say. But now Josh Matthews, former WWE guys, and it's like, what is going on with? I mean, he was a heel, and now he's kind of a heel, but really not. He's just bad. I mean, and I love Madison Rayne, and I'm happy that she and him are married, and that's fine. And it's just, I mean, Madison Rayne is such a good wrestler. It's such a fan-friendly knockout, but it's just, I can't figure out what's going on with this announce team. And it was Robert Flores who announced with Don West at Slammiversary. And if you could go back and watch that DVD, or maybe you can find one of the matches online if you don't have that DVD, and just listen to how good the commentator was together. And I never thought Don West was a great commentator, but that's the thing, compared to these two, he's good, and it's just, commentators make so much of it. I mean, you go back to WWE times, I mean, if you go back when Jesse was doing Saturday Night's Main Event, Jesse and Vince were a great team together. The Brain, Gorilla Monsoon wasn't even that bad. I know some people think he was, but it's just, and even now, I mean, people get sick of Michael Cole, and then now JBL left, so it's just, all the commentators are so important, and Impact cannot get it right with it. These two do not fit as commentators for Impact Wrestling, especially the pay-per-views. And when you have Don West and Robert Flores who could do it, I would assume, I mean, maybe they can't. I mean, maybe they can't get Robert Flores again, but you got to do something different. It was actually better when Matthews was a complete jerk and was just fighting with Borash all the time. At least he had a little bit of stuff coming from the commentary table, but now it's just not happening. And so, okay, kind of went off on a tangent there, but they do figure out it's Jimmy Jacobs. He was just part of WWE Creative, and he took the selfie with the people, the Young Bucks, when they invaded WWE. And so the best, I mean, I will admit that one of the best lines of the night was Josh Matthews going, "I think we should take a selfie." Okay, so I'll give Josh Matthews one there, and Josh Matthews did kind of look like a coward when Alberto Patron came out. So Josh Matthews had a couple things that made it a little bit tolerable, but no, it just didn't work out. So now is Jimmy Jacob going to be in Impact Wrestling? That could be exciting as well. You go from there to America's Top Team versus Moose and, I believe, is his name Bonner? Is it Matt Bonner? I don't even know his name. Stephen Bonner. Matt Bonner, I believe, was a 3-point shooter for the San Antonio Spurs. University of Florida. So, yeah, Stephen Bonner and Moose against America's top team. Lots of crazy stuff happens. Moose actually impressed me greatly. I mean, I saw Moose a little bit in ROH, and then he I always just kind of looked at him as like a big monster. I mean, Lashley always seemed way more talented than him, except Moose seemed like a good foe for Lashley, but I never saw Moose with as much talent as I did tonight. And I don't know if I was missing it or if Moose just was completely on his game and they let him, and he's just getting used to it, or it was a great move. I mean, Moose, he climbed back over the cage. He did a couple jumps off the cage. It's everything with him just seemed to hit, and it was just great. Finally, they got Moose trapped outside the cage, and the head guy for America's top team, I have to look him up, is maybe we can't. The guy who leads the team locks the door, and then now all of them are in the ring with Stephen Bonner and Lambert. Dan, I believe his name, Dan Lambert, yes. Locks the door. He's in the ring even with them. And it was cool when Moose caught him, and we thought he was going to go down, but then the numbers game caught up with them. Good to see. After all that happens, you can't have Moose and Bonner winning, because that just would have made Lashley look weak. And King Mo, Lashley looked really strong. Moose looked really strong. Those are the two main wrestlers there. I appreciate the MMA people. I think the MMA people kind of put over the wrestlers, and that's great, because that's good to see for the future and stuff like that. So I think Lashley will continue, hopefully, with Moose, and this isn't over yet. But yeah, Moose, one of my stars of the night, and a great match. So finally we get to the main event, Eli Drake versus Johnny Impact. I hate the name Johnny Impact. Anything else would do. Maybe he's not allowed to use Johnny Mundo. And yeah, Hennigan, I think, is his real name. But even John Hennigan would be better than Johnny Impact at this point. So, yeah, exactly what I expected from the main event. And especially after seeing El Patron earlier, that makes sense. Actually, the one thing, and I'll mention it now, right before we talk about it, we saw Santino Marella. I was like, are we going to see something happen with Santino Marella? I know, can't think of what his real name is, but you guys know who I'm talking about. His real name sounds Italian, I do know that, because I think he really is from Italy. And so I thought he was going to maybe interfere at some point, or maybe he was going to save after Alberto Patron came down, but I guess he was just there in attendance. Kind of reminded me of the time WrestleMania was in Orlando, and the McAllisters, so the Highlanders is what their team name was. Rory and Robbie McAllister. They were like the old Scottish team. This would have been around WrestleMania 20. Could have been WrestleMania 24 maybe in Orlando, because 22 and 20. Yeah, I think 24 was in Orlando, so that must have been around. So that would have been 2010. And then Impact shows them and even mentions, like, hey, even the competitions here just said, because I guess McAllister, he came up through the indies, and so he was friends with a lot of these people and just kind of seeing them, and pretty much got the Highlanders fired from WWE because they said you're not supposed to go over the Impact place. But I thought Impact was, for as small as they were being kind of jerky at that point, because it was like, okay, let's just ruin this guy's career because we can, and we can show that, a very low-card WWE person has friends over in our place. It kind of bothered me, and so I hope that's not what they were doing with Santino. Santino really has no affection with the WWE anymore, but it might have just been, hey, we recognize him, and he came to watch, and so that was good. Eli Drake, Johnny Impact. Yeah, if you guys are listening, you can read about the match if you didn't see it. Hopefully you had a chance to watch it by now. Good match. I liked the ending because... Actually, I liked the ending and I didn't like the ending. I liked the ending because it was... you were able to keep John... You didn't Johnny Impact didn't lose anything. He pretty much got cheated of the victory, and that's what you needed for him at this point. You don't want to make him weak right off the bat. And Johnny Impact, the by far the coolest point of the night was when he slid under the steel barrier on the outside and came on the top. That was amazing. I mean, that had to take a lot, and for one thing. And, I mean, maybe they slicked up the floor a little bit, because you could kind of see him moving the people a little bit, so it's like, what's going on? Because then they kind of came back out, throws him in the barrier, slides. So, yeah, actually, I'll explain the whole thing for those of you who didn't see it, and for those of you who did see it, you'll probably always want to relive it again. So, they're outside the ring. Johnny Impact... Eli Drake's going to throw Johnny Impact into the steel barricade just at ringside. And normally you just hit it with your back and crash, and you sit there like, oh, that hurt. Instead, he completely slides down under the barricade into the crowd, but the barricade they weren't like prison bars. They were like, they had mats over them or something, so you couldn't see what was happening below the barriers into the crowd. And then so Eli Drake's all like, he slid under it. Eli Drake comes over like surprised, and then jumps, and he actually did a really good job of timing, and jumps up and surprises Eli Drake and comes back. I mean, it didn't lead to a win or anything, but it was one of the coolest things. It was very original. And I mean, yeah, Johnny Impact, John Morrison, John Hannigan, Johnny Mundo, whatever you want to call him, that's the type of stuff he'll give you. So yeah, I thought that was the spot of the night by far. It definitely entertained me. And so otherwise you have a couple times Adonis interferes and gives and helps them. You have Adonis giving him the belt to Eli Drake. Eli Drake's going to hit him with it, but then Johnny Mundo ends up squashing it, and then Johnny Mundo picks up the belt, and he looks at it, he's like, he's going to hit Eli Drake with it, and that's going to get him disqualified, but instead he just takes out Adonis, which was kind of, it was like, it kind of showed that they're turning Johnny Impact into a smart wrestler. Johnny Impact hits the Starship something off the top. I don't know what, just the Mundo Starship, I don't know what you call it anymore, but it's like the springboard. He does the splits off the top rope and does kind of a spinning springboard. Gonna get the 1, 2, 3. Alberto El Patron, perfect timing out of the crowd. So this time they did hit their spot. El Patron right on his spot, so they don't have to hesitate or do anything that would be. This was just right on. Pulls the referee out, and the referee's all mad at him because he stopped the 3 count. And then the guy's, oh, he's back. You knew he was going to cause trouble. Mundo, or Johnny Impact, dives towards him, going to hit him. Instead, he ends up hitting the referee, takes the referee completely outside the ring, and then he's down. El Patron picks up a chair and just starts and he nailed Johnny Impact really good. I mean, that was one of the best chair shots I've seen in a long time in any federation. Hits Impact with it and just takes him out. Then he goes up into the ring and takes out Eli Drake, and was just like, okay, so now everybody's out, and ends up throwing the referee back into the ring, throwing Mundo back into the ring, or Impact, I guess I should say. Johnny Impact. I'm going to call him Johnny Mundo, possibly still John Morrison, and then he's like, everyone's just kind of laying there, what's going to happen? He pulls Drake over to Mundo, so he lets Drake hit the pin, and that's the way it ends. So, I mean, it certainly didn't end clean, and I guess I can handle the ending because it's got a story. I mean, but that's the thing. The story now is El Patron. And moving forward, it's going to be El Patron. And I would assume, since he hit Drake, we're going to have some El Patron Drake. But Mundo's going to, or Johnny Impact is going to be mad at El Patron too. So, I mean, could we see a triple threat for the next thing? Who knows? But that's kind of the way it ended. So, that's kind of Slammiversary in a nutshell. Overall, I thought it kept up. I certainly am not disappointed with it. I'm not sitting here tonight thinking, oh, that was the greatest pay-per-view ever. But at the same time, I'm sitting here thinking, like, Impact still has a lot. And if they can keep it going in the right direction, there's a chance it's still that they're gonna be. Sometimes it seems like they're gonna fold in the next year, but they still have things. Jimmy Jacobs coming out. Hopefully they're working well with him. You have Sami Callihan now. Like I said, I don't know if we're going to see anything with Santino Marella, but that could be. I'd love to see him, but I think he's retired because I think he's got a bad back or a bad neck or something. So I think he's retired, but even in a managerial role or something like that. Because what is happening, because I don't think Cornette's there anymore, and we didn't see him tonight. We didn't see Pritchard tonight. We didn't see Dutch Mantel, Zeb Coulter tonight. We didn't see, they actually kept away from all the backstage people, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there with the backstage people. Trevor Lee, your X Division champion, fine. That was a good X Division match, started off well, definitely watchable. You had your filler match, probably to take the place of the Rosemary, Tara Valkyrie match, but that was fine too, because we find out that she'll be back at the beginning of next year, and so just give her a little time. That's only 2 months away, so it should be fine. You have an Alberto Patron promo that worked. Kind of mad at everybody. The Monsters Ball was fine. It fulfilled what it needed to. It wasn't supposed to be great wrestling, and it did its thing. I hope we see Grotto more, but I don't think we are. That could be one of the bad things. Team Impact versus Team AAA. I hope they got to turn Ethan Carter III back into a heel. He could be one of the top heels in the company. James Storm should be a face, and Eddie Edwards should be a face, and so let's just kind of go from there. Hopefully EC3. I don't know. They're messing him up badly. That's one thing I wish they could fix. EC3 is a top heel. If you have him as a heel, he's not a top face. LAX can hold on their own. They seem to be doing strong. You now have Ohio versus Everything adding Sami Callihan, which really gives them some credibility. They're going to be the tag team champions moving forward for at least a little while, and that match was great too. You have the triple threat knockouts. That was more just the Gail Kim retirement. I don't have a problem with that. Definitely enjoyable. Like I said, Jimmy Jacobs comes out. The American Top Team beating Moose and Bonner was a very entertaining match and a little bit different. So it's kind of like almost like the celebrity portion of it with America's Top Team. It'll be interesting to see how much longer they stay together. Hopefully for a while yet. And then hopefully we get to see Lashley staying around and everything else like that. And then you had your main event, which might have been a slight disappointment because of the ending, but at the same time, you're kind of going for the Alberto El Patron thing. So I guess I can handle that. So, love Johnny Impact. Think he's going to be a big plus for them. Eli Drake's a great champion right now, whatever he happens to do. Alberto El Patron can generate heat and seems to be mad at everyone. That works too. Lashley, Moose, both high marks for Gail Kim, Sienna, all the knockouts. They have strong knockouts. We're going to lose Gail Kim. I think they have enough to keep it going. They'll never replace her, but enough to keep it going. So that's fine. LAX and OVE both doing it on their own. There's just a lot to be excited about. Actually, the one thing I maybe wasn't excited about is James Storm, EC3, Eddie Edwards. Let's get them doing something a little better than what they're doing right now. But all three of them have enough talent that they should be able to. Hopefully we see Grotto some more, and Trevor Lee in the X Division is great. So, overall, I think it keeps up. Like I said, it's not the best pay-per-view ever, but it was definitely enjoyable. And for all the bumps in the Impact Road in the last few months, it's good to see them put on pay-per-views like this. I think they can be proud of themselves, and I hope we get to keep this going. I hope they start touring again soon. And like I mentioned, and I did that little long spiel in the middle, get some announcers. I mean, come on. Nothing against Jeremy Borash and Josh Matthews, but it is not working. Let me know. That would be one of the biggest questions. Let me know what you guys, if you guys are listening to this, hey, and you made it all the way to the end, hey, thanks for listening, for one thing. But what did you guys think of the announcers? It's like, am I wrong, or is it just? And then, like I said, go back and listen to the Slammiversary with Don West and that other guy who I'll give you his name, Robert Flores. And it's just how much of a better announcing team that. Oh, except I don't want the Pope back either. I just actually watched Slammiversary 2016, and the Pope that had been the Pope and Josh Matthews, and that was really bad as well. And nothing against the Pope. I kind of liked him as a wrestler, but that was awful announcing too. So maybe that's what I guess. They need help. Maybe they can get Matt Stryker. He's awesome. I think he's pretty happy down in Lucha Underground though. So yeah, let's see what happens there. So yeah, leave it in your comments. Leave anything in your comments below on Impact Wrestling, on the channel, on anything. Please like and subscribe, especially subscribe, please. I mean, hey, we're getting about 1 or 2 subscribers a day, which I would think is pretty good as the channel continues to grow. We're gonna have lots more surprises and trips. We have a trip to WrestleMania. We're trying to get 1 or 2 more trips. Actually, we'll have a trip to Cauliflower Alley Club as well. So we have 2 trips for sure. Next year, we're working on one other one. And I kind of mentioned I was hoping to go to WrestleCade, but I think I'm going to change that trip to a different trip, just kind of partly with the timing and partly because of a couple of things that have been announced that I really want to go to. So I'll keep you guys updated on that, and you can watch for the videos on that. So, hey, thanks for joining me today. And, yeah, please subscribe and leave your comments below. Thanks. And so long from the North Star State.